YouTube family, it is me, Miss Dana Ashlie. Today I have an exclusive audio interview with an ex-Department of Homeland Security employee who is here to warn the world about what a 5G future will entail. Wait, 5G? Doesn't that just mean faster download speeds? We need to stay ahead of the global technological race, right? Sadly, that is not exactly the truth, and today I'm here to let you in on the other side of the 5G story. What we are told it will be and what will actually happen are unfortunately two entirely different things altogether. And the lady that we will be talking to today should know because she has already lived with 5G up close and personal. So this video is here to not only help you identify what will happen with 5G, but also to help you prepare by giving you some ways to help mitigate the impacts of this future technology in your lives and then those of your friends and family. So buckle up, my loves, and enjoy the show.
Here in Ohio are feeling the impact too. A stage 4 cancer patient and now former TSA agent is forced to pay out of pocket for her medical care because of the shutdown.
So here we see news reporting on a cancer victim that works for the TSA. Now the media is directing your attention to her struggle with the burden of her medical bills due to the government shutdown. However, what they aren't telling you is that as a result of her job, this woman was being exposed to a technology that is untested for biological impacts, millimeter wave machines. And they certainly won't tell you that the Department of Homeland Security and TSA agents that are standing next to these millimeter wave machines all day are coming down with a myriad of cancers, autoimmune disorders, and neurological conditions in droves.
So all this is what I take every day.
Bottle after bottle.
This helps me so that all this stuff will go through my system okay.
Judy Rains pulls out her pills. She's battling stage 4 ovarian cancer.
I have bone pain. Most days I have to take a prescription strength naproxen.
Several dozen pills a day, but it's not keeping the doctor's visits away.
I have to pay for every cancer treatment, doctor's visits.
Now pinching pennies because of the partial government shutdown. Judy was forced to retire from TSA after 10 years. Her cancer took a toll on her health and she was moved to light duty. The problem? She says that could only last for 45 days when her doctor told her she'd have to stay there indefinitely. Soon after, the shutdown happened.
I have a little bit of money for a rainy day, but don't know how long that'll last.
The partial government shutdown is on its 22nd day, making it the longest shutdown in history, making folks like Judy fed up with the holdup.
Stop holding us hostage, more or less, and let all these people go back to work.
However, recent news indicates that the DHS and TSA employees seem to be dealing with something that other government employees are not, and they're suddenly choosing not to come to work during this unpaid period.
And we have some breaking news now in the politics lead on the impact of the federal government shutdown in the United States. Multiple sources tell CNN's Renee Marsh about mass sick-outs at 4 major airports across the U.S. Hundreds of TSA employees who are working without pay right now have called out from work this week. At Dallas, Fort Worth alone, sick calls are up almost 300%.
Now, perhaps this news coverage is being used, as usual, to make people fearful about, oh no, airports aren't being manned the same way as they were. We're more susceptible to terrorists. Or perhaps it's being used to cause more division, also as usual, between the contrived right and pro-wall or contrived left and against-wall rhetoric. But what I would like to suggest is that perhaps it's possible that these employees have a very good reason to stay home. Perhaps they truly are sicker than other government employees who are coming to work without pay, and for them, it's just not worth it. What they will never tell you on the news is that these DHS employees are being experimented on. They will never tell you that the machines that they stand next to day in and day out are not only millimeter wave machines, but that these are using the same frequencies that are in the soon-to-come to a light post near you 5G spectrum. You know, it is rare to find a government agent understandably, who is willing to come and speak out about this and put their neck on the line in this way. And through my talks with her, I learned that DHS employees' training materials are shredded at the end of each day, and that there is a very intact, almost bully-like political system from within the culture that keeps people very much in line and not asking questions. So the woman you'll hear today will remain anonymous, but she is still an incredible example of courage, as she is putting the concern of herself after her concern for her fellow man. She said, in hopes of letting the other people that work around these machines know what may be happening to them, as well as to let all of us know what the quickly closing in future of 5G may bring. And guys, last note here, I'm really sorry about the sound quality during the interview. I have since then invested in a proper mic, thanks to your support, but I hope it's not too distracting and that you can hear it just fine. So enjoy.
So I'd like to finally say, before introducing our anonymous guest, that there have been many people who are in her position who do take the time to write emails to verify these claims, but very few are willing to personally speak out and share details in an interview such as this. So for that, we owe her our gratitude. And I would ask that we also offer her our prayers for her continued protection. So thanks for joining us, sister. Thank you for your courage and your heart to help others through this warning.
Glad to be here, Dana.
So I'd like to start by giving a little background so, folks know what kind of person that you are prior to this position with the DHS. You had earned a master's degree in a professional field, but it was due to the bad economy that you felt you needed to take this job, in part for the health benefits that it offered. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And for the benefit of those who don't realize what 5G is, just so you know, it's just a name for fifth generation. But what it means is that there's a brand new set of frequencies within the electromagnetic radiation field. These are frequencies that humans have not been exposed to prior to this. Now, if you have seen my last video on the other fields in the EMF spectrum, cell towers, cell phones, Wi-Fi, you know I proved beyond a shadow of the doubt that these fields are already impacting health and biology in incomprehensible levels. Check that video out if you haven't seen that. But now the 5G fields will be a completely new group unleashed on human beings. So 5G is just really a nickname, but in truth, these are millimeter waves. They don't travel as far as non-ionic radiation from Wi-Fi does, which is why they want to put them on every few light posts or posts that are in each and every one of our neighborhoods in America. They have kept the frequencies that they plan on using in 5G very close to their chest. So people who know about these things claim that they aren't sure which frequencies are being used. But we do know that 5G or millimeter wave machines are already being used in airports. And after talking to this courageous woman, it seems to me that they are studying their impacts of 5G on our very own Americans who have taken these positions and are being exposed to these frequencies day in and day out. So you worked in an airport that utilized a machine that used these millimeter waves. And you told me before that whenever you took this job, you had in fact just taken out a health policy, a $100,000 insurance policy on yourself, and you were deemed perfectly healthy and normal. Tell us what happened. The 2 years that you were not around the machines, you were fine. But after they put these machines in, how long did it take to start feeling effects, and what were the first effects that you felt?
I first started to feel extreme fatigue and brain fog. I was also very dizzy at times. I would question my coordination, balance, perception. That was the first symptoms that I really started to notice. Coordination, tingling, dizzy, almost like wanting to faint.
Oh, right. You mentioned joint pain.
Yes, the joint pain came later on.
So talk about those symptoms later on. So we're talking about maybe 18 months after being around the machines, right?
Yes. I continued to work, even though it was very difficult. I continued to work, and I took like over-the-counter pain type medication to alleviate my symptoms while working an 8-hour day. I knew something was going on with my brain and my nervous system, so I decided to see a neurologist. I did this on my own without going to see a primary care doctor first.
Right. And you shared with me, too, that you had many coworkers there that were in similar positions to you in proximity to the machines, and that you saw, did you say 28 of them come down with cancer or autoimmune system or die? Is that true?
That's correct. Over time, I just started to really pay attention to what others were saying, and, I would listen to what they were saying. Many of my coworkers would get their chemo treatments and come to work after having their chemo treatments, which, if anybody went through chemotherapy, they would realize it was very difficult to do that. It puts a really hard strain on your body.
Of course.
They were afraid to call off work. They were afraid to use their entitled FMLA. And I know a lot of people really struggle through this.
You talked about a supervisor to you that actually wasn't even slated to be next to the machines, but when people took breaks, she filled in for them. Tell me about the experience that you saw with her on her final day.
She did it because we were short-staffed, so they could take their breaks in the morning and the afternoon and also their lunches. So she went out of her way to make our job more pleasant and give us the breaks that we needed on time. And I know she was complaining of a lot of headaches.
Yeah.
And I could see in her eyes that she was really suffering. But one day at work, she collapsed, and the paramedics came and took her right away to the hospital. And the end result was she ended up passing from, I believe, what it had to do with the overexposure to the millimeter wave.
You'd mentioned something that was really struck with me that I just thought, wow, and this is what has given me the feeling that these employees are being utilized to experiment with these millimeter waves, was that you contacted her family member, and tell us what this family member said to you.
That the government took her body for an autopsy.
Wow.
And the results from the autopsy were inconclusive.
Oh, of course, of course. One point, you also mentioned that was amazing that during your training, you were told not to wear any type of dosimeter, which is a device that measures radio frequency. So they told you this in training?
Yes.
So what did they tell you would happen if you wore this? If you were caught with one of these devices that measures these frequencies?
We would be terminated if we were caught wearing any type of RF dosimeter device.
Fired immediately.
Yes.
But at one point, they brought these devices in, and one group was allowed to wear them, and one was not. Is that correct?
There were select chosen people to wear the RF dosimeters. I'm not actually sure what type of dosimeter it was because, as far as I know, there is no technology available as of yet that would give an accurate measurement of the millimeter wave spectrum.
But if this machine is what we now know that it is created by, this was the ADD2 machine?
Yes.
So that's created by a subdivision of Lockheed Martin, right?
That's correct.
So before we get into this next part, I really wanted to quickly introduce the company that produced these machines, L3 Technologies. I'll take a moment to read right off of Wikipedia what they are admittedly doing. L3 is an American company that supplies C3ISR. C3ISR is Command, Control, Communications, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance systems and their products. Its customers include the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. government intelligence agencies, NASA, aerospace contractors, as well as commercial telecom and wireless customers. So, simply perusing through their website, you can see how they have already provided surveillance and weaponry not only to military, but to your local law enforcement.
So, I don't know. I mean, I'm speculating now, but I would think that if they made the machine, then, and if indeed they were testing this, the impacts of this, then they probably do have the ability to measure the machines. But regardless, these people, were you chosen to wear the machine, the dosimeter?
No, I was not.
And so how long did they let them have them on?
I would say it was between 2 to 3 months.
How do you know that's what it was?
Because I remember them talking about testing, and certain people were wearing the badges to measure their exposure.
So these were small little, how big were they? Did you see?
About the size of a nickel.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. So when you finally did take your leave, what was your health like for those next 6 months?
It was terrible. I had to have assistance in the shower and also use the restroom. It was a very difficult time period of my life. It just turned my world upside down. I spent most of my time in bed trying to figure out exactly what just happened to me.
Right.
Because it just was so surprising, that my health would decline so quickly. I was in major pain. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I was a 12.
Right. Wow. And thankfully you had your husband, right?
Exactly. If I was alone, I would have never made it because the pain. First, the doctor put me on fentanyl, and I was scared of it. So I had him switch me to time-release morphine and oxycodone. I could still feel it through that.
Wow.
The pain was just unbelievable. And I thought it was from the neurological disease I was diagnosed with. It wasn't until later when the burns actually lifted to the surface of my skin, I started to urinate skin tissue and had blood in my urine. And I knew at that point I was burned.
From the inside.
I was burned from the inside out.
And so the parts of your body that had the burns that finally, through bed rest and time off, were able to come to the surface, those coincided with the side of your body that was closer to the machine?
That's correct.
Wow.
So forgive me, but I just wanted to add a couple things that this DHS employee shared with me during our preliminary phone call. I found in my notes, but unfortunately got skipped over during the interview. It happens sometimes. But anyway, I'm sharing them now in addition to this because they're very important as they have to do with the symptoms of 5G. I just want to do a very thorough job in warning you all what 5G may bring so that you can know how to identify this for what it really is, and you can decide if you want to believe me or not. She did say that during her initial phases of being dizzy and having lack of concentration, she also said that nosebleeds came from nowhere, and that during her later symptoms with the extreme fatigue and all over joint pain, fibromyalgia type stuff, she also mentioned that she had fainting spells and dizziness to the point of even having mild seizures. She also experienced teeth loosening, which I actually also came across with the targeted individuals who are dealing with microwaves. So that adds up in other ways as well. And lastly, her severe pain in her extremities turned into complete numbness in her legs, arms, and hands, which is what prevented her from driving or walking unassisted that she mentioned earlier. Now, as for her coworkers, again, that she saw firsthand, 28 coworkers who either died, were diagnosed with cancer, or a very severe autoimmune disease. She said these cancers happened in all ages, even the young. They included, but they were not limited to, uterine, breast, and colon cancers. One person she mentioned even got lung cancer who had never smoked. She also saw multiple people collapse at work, and she heard of multiple miscarriages of women who were working next to these machines. So sad.
So once you realize that this was indeed a result of being next to these weapons, that's what I'm going to call them because that's what they are.
I agree.
Once you discovered that indeed that was actually the issue, you became, well, I want to first say you had an incredible, absolutely miraculous healing experience that I want to cover in a separate video because it's an entirely different perspective of this. But once you were able to be on your feet and start researching, and you found out that the ATD2 was created by a division of Lockheed Martin, and you began to seek legal counsel. At first, they thought that they could represent you, but then they said they could not. And why was that?
I never did get a straight answer. Well, other than what I felt that it was military equipment, and that was it.
Right. So you became on fire, metaphorically as well, because you were driven to let people know what was happening. Because as an American who believes in your country, you thought, well, my goodness, our members of Congress and our president need to know about this. And so you talked to me about writing to every member of Congress. And although some wrote back, it never really went anywhere. But tell us about the letter to President Trump and his response.
I wrote a letter to President Trump explaining to him my experience as far as what I went through and my concerns and the amount of suffering and loss, financial loss, loss of my future, as far as a career.
Pension. You said your pension.
Everything.
Right.
And I was in shock when I received a letter back from one of his staffers, pretty much stating that I had a drug problem and that I needed counseling. I was just really, really shocked because I was in so much pain. And these were medications prescribed by a neurologist.
Right. Wow.
So it made me very angry, and at that point I'm like, I'm going to show him, So I stopped taking everything, all my pills, all my medicine. I gradually weaned myself. I was determined.
Wow, but you were in incredible pain, and you were still feeling the pain even through those medications, and of enough sound mind to write these letters. You said that they also mentioned in the response from Trump's office to an address of where you should check yourself in?
Yes. It was an address not too far from my house.
So they, and what kind of facility was this they told you should check yourself in to?
It was like a drug addict treatment center.
Wow.
I was totally insulted by it.
As well you should be, sister.
So with this next little statement I'm going to make, I'm going to risk losing some of you, but I have to say it's going to be worth it because what I keep seeing and why that the elites are so successful against us is that they have us pinned against each other rather than praying against them as we should be. This is not to be political, it is to be anti-political. See, as an example, in March of 2018, Trump signed into law a bill, a $1.3 trillion spending bill, that included measures to speed up the deployment of 5G, $600 million of which would be used to ensure that 5G is not only in the cities, but in the rural areas as well, without fail. So here's a suggestion for you. Why don't you take that money, put a fat down payment on your wall, stick your 5G where the sun don't shine, and then you can let everyone go back to work. You know why that's not going to happen? Because that is not why Trump is in office. See, they want you guys all fighting about a wall whose purpose is more likely to keep you in when the stuff hits the fan. So we aren't looking at them instead. Here's a real news flash. If it's on the news and it's causing you to hate a fellow American of any label, right, left, purple, blue, you lose and they win. Why is that? Because if you have hate towards your fellow brother, you have murdered him already. Now that's according to Jesus, not Trump. And they also win because, again, you aren't paying attention to the things that matter, like 5G, that's going to take away your capacity to think. So this is not said to keep you from praying for your leaders. Absolutely, please don't stop doing that. You should be praying for your enemies too, like Jesus said. But I believe it's a scripture in Corinthians that said that your faith should not stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God.
Okay, you had at this point figured out the cause. You were slowly getting yourself back to function. I guess I would want to mention the other thing that happened to you as you began to research these machines. You know what I'm referring to. Why don't you mention a little bit about that?
While I was researching these military documents regarding the millimeter wave technology, on two separate occasions, I was targeted. If anyone does not know what a targeted individual is, it's very real. It is happening to citizens, regular citizens. It could happen to anybody. But I was targeted two different times with a microwave weapon. I believe it was in direct result from researching this technology.
What did that feel like? I did do a video about this, so most of my listeners will be familiar if they look at the Nick Cruz video on TIs. But explain exactly what happened to you in your home.
I was laying on the couch, and all of a sudden I started to feel extreme heat. And it was a different kind of heat. It was like, I felt like I was an ant under a magnifying glass in the sun.
Wow.
And it was two separate occasions, and it was very, very, very painful, on top of the pain I was already in.
Right. They're doing everything they can to prevent us from educating ourselves on this. And again, I just want to applaud you for your courage. Even having been through that, you're still willing to come out because of your love of your fellow man, which is what Jesus told us to do. We're not seeing many people that are walking in the walk. So again, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your story with us. And, I don't want to just end it on such a down note, but I do want to get this message out so that when the 5G comes live, and of course I encourage everyone to do what they can to fight it on a local level, but I have to tell you, I've seen the power they're taking away from the local communities to be able to resist this, and Trump's administration is moving this forward so that it goes forward without a hitch and as quickly as possible, all in the name of improving the economy, of course, and more jobs and all these things. But at the price of what? I just wanted to let people have an idea of the symptomology so that when this does begin to happen to people, they can understand this is not some, illness X that they're going to have a vaccine for, you need to go out and get. That is not going to be the solution. In fact, it'll most likely make things much worse.
And of course, it's going to affect everyone differently because we each have our unique thumbprint with our own DNA. So it depends on one's DNA as far as how this will develop over time.
The non-ionizing radiation will impact each of us differently because of the different genetic weaknesses each of us have. So like all of the people that you were working with came down with different various cancers, different various autoimmune issues. In fact, it's a matter of radiation. And we know that X-rays are something that build up over time. And now the canaries in the coal mine, such as you and others, you aren't really a canary in the coal mine, you were hit up close and center. But there are people...
Close and personal, I would say.
Yeah. So, but we do know that it accumulates in the body. And so they know that the tipping point will come if we don't take protective measures against it. And so again, if you haven't seen my video, Wi-Fi wireless warfare video, please check that out, at least the second half of it, to look at how it can impact your children and yourself and the people you love. And at the end, it talks about a lot of solutions to prevent this, because the less we have coming at us now that is accumulating, the slower that tipping point will be to come for the rest of us. So a couple of the things that you mentioned that help you get through this were actually Epsom salt baths. And these are some of the things I definitely am going to be doing some videos on, because I really want to help people to keep their body clean and not let this radiation build up. but you also mentioned selenium, magnesium, B6, and iodide, Lugol's iodide. I've heard, that's what we're supposed to take when we get radiation exposure. Is that all correct, what I just said? And are there any other things you want to add to that?
That's correct. And also, I was very cautious about how I would use my cell phone. I would not hold it up to my head. I would put it on speaker. I made, the effort to unplug my Wi-Fi. I would wear protective clothing when I would go out. I had to make a conscious lifestyle change to be able to recover from this.
Absolutely. So these are the kind of things I want people to be doing now before they have these symptoms. So thank you for sharing that with us. Another thing that I just want to throw out there is that it absolutely is interacting with the metals in our bodies. I've used this very oversimplified analogy before, but if you put aluminum in the microwave, sparks fly. And in the same way, we are getting exposure to metals that have no business in our body, metals like mercury from flu shots, of which there are very high doses of mercury in flu shots.
Since we already get food at the Globes, we thought we'd mix it up and try something new. So roll up your sleeves, Hollywood, because you're all getting flu shots! You know you wore a sleeveless gown for a reason. Hey, shot!
Welcome to the bizarre reality that is 2019.
And look, if you're an anti-vaxxer, just put a napkin over your head and we'll skip you.
Of course, the aluminum that is all around us in our groundwater and our soil that is coming into us in that way. But also a really big one is the amalgam, silver amalgam in our mouths.
What you're seeing is mercury vapor coming off a 25-year-old silver amalgam filling in an extracted tooth. The background is a phosphorescent screen. The mercury vapor absorbs the fluorescent light, and you can see it as a shadow. This is mercury coming off a filling that was dipped in water that's the same temperature as the human body. This is a filling that was rubbed with a pencil eraser for just a few seconds. These are not small amounts of mercury. If you can see it, it's more than 1,000 times higher than the Environmental Protection Agency will allow for the air that we breathe. Here is the mercury vapor every time you raise the temperature to 110 degrees. With hot coffee or warm water, mercury comes off fillings every time you stimulate them.
I mean, this is 50% mercury. It is very important to get these removed. You cannot have them removed just from a normal dentist. There is IAOMT, is a group of dentists that know how to remove it properly so that you don't risk greater exposure rather than less. Were there any other things you wanted to throw in there regarding the metal aspect of things?
Yes, fluoride is a neurotoxin, so I made sure that I'm using a reverse osmosis water system.
Absolutely, that's big. Thank you for saying that.
I no longer use regular toothpaste. I just use baking soda to brush my teeth.
Great.
Just every little change that I could make to make a difference in the way I would feel, I did it.
Every little bit adds up, and this is a very subtle it's a very huge spiritual war, but the devil's in the details, as they say, and so everything we can do to remove these metals from our bodies, we're going to decrease our chances of having more EHS sooner later on. Again, sister, I just want to thank you so much for your courage. God bless you, and we'll talk to you in the next video about the miracle that you also received.
Thank you so much, Dana, for letting my voice be heard. I am just so ever grateful for this because I feel it's very, very important for the American public to be aware of this 5G technology.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much.
And for those of you who have made it to the end of this, I just wanted to quickly share my most sincere thank you to those of you who have supported me, for those of you who have written me letters. My deepest apologies for not writing everyone back. It's very hard for me to address every single person who has written me, but I just wanted you to know that it means the world to me, and it literally has kept me going. So Thank you so very much. You're all my prayers, and I love you.